So if Old English isn't English, or it is English, but it doesn't sound like English and it's so different that we don't understand it as English, how do we read it? Well, we read it the same way we read any language that's foreign to us. We get ourselves a good notebook, a good pen, a good dictionary, and we translate it as best we can. We start with the words, and when we can't figure something out, we guess based on what we see around it. So let's look at a passage from Beowulf, get my pen so I'm ready to go, where Grendel is approaching the wine hall. In Old English, the passage looks something like this. And thanks to the University of Virginia, we know that it might have sounded something like this.
Acum of more, under mittlelvum Grendel gongan, goddess ure bear. Myntes se man shava manna kynnes, sumne besyrwan in seletam herm. Wold under woknum, totas the he ween wretched, gold selegumina garvos twisse, fatum fachne.
Okay, let's do that again one more time.
Acum of more, under mittlelvum Grendel gongan, goddess ure bear. Myntes se man shava manna kynnes, sumne besyrwan in seletam herm. Wold under woknum, totas the he ween wretched, gold selegumina garvos twisse, fatum fachne.
Okay, so that maybe didn't tell us what they mean, but it gave us a rhythm of the poem so that maybe we can figure out what words are related and what words aren't. So the first thing you would do is you'd start picking apart the words. So for instance, we might start with this word right here, and if we look it up in our dictionary, we might find that it means anger. In fact, we would find that out. Then if we looked up another word, we might find that this word right here could mean entrap or ensnare. We can fill in also that this one means bear, that this one means man, and that this one means God. Now the thing to remember when translating is Old English was inflected. So that means that they added things to the beginning of the word and the end of the word in order to convey meaning. So instead of saying that this is Sarah's really bad translation, you might actually just put something at the end of translation to tell you that it was mine, and something at the beginning of it to tell you that it was bad. No, bad translation, Sarah. Who knows? So when we translate the words, we won't necessarily have the right form. Looking at this one, we can guess that this probably is going to be possessive, because we know that anger and bear and God are related, and the speaker spoke them very close together. So it's likely that it's going to be God's anger. And bear might not be the right form of the word, but it might be bore or brought or something very similar. We can do similar guessing if we look over here. We know that Grendel is approaching the wine house, and if we had translated a few more words, we might come out with maybe comes, because he's getting closer. And if you're really good at this, which I'm not, but other people are, eventually you end up with something like this. This is a translation by Johann Coberl. I'm sure I just butchered that poor man's name. Then from the moor under the mist slopes, Grendel came walking, bore God's anger, the evil enemy intended to trap some of mankind in that high hall. He stood under the clouds to where he knew the wine hall, gold hall of men, to be most ready, adored with gold plates. Now the trick with translation is that you're taking words and finding what they mean in your language, whether that's Old English to English, or Spanish to English, or German to English. Only part of it is about what the words mean. The other part of it is what the words say. When you say a word, you have the meaning that's in the dictionary, but then you have the meaning as people understand it. A good example today is the word decimate. Technically, decimate means to reduce by a tenth. Deci means tenth. But the way it's used in modern vernacular means obliterate, utterly destroy, completely and utterly remove from the face of the earth, decimate. So when we look at the words, there's a lot of room for interpretation if you're trying to make it understood to a modern audience as opposed to simply translating it word for word, which would end up with a jumble of words that don't make a whole lot of sense. As an example, here's another translation from 1910. Then from the moorland by misty crags, with God's wrath laden, Grendel came. The monster was minded of mankind now, sundry to seize in the stately house. Under welkin he walked, till the wine palace there, gold hall of men he gladly discerned, flashing with fretwork. Now you notice that this one has a lot more words in it, and it's very poetic when compared to the other one, which might be seen as a little bit more blunt. That's because the author felt that the words needed to be changed slightly to be understood by modern audiences. So when we translate things, we're not just translating the dictionary meaning, we're also translating the story meaning of the words, and that's part of what makes the puzzle fun.